Hello everybody, it is Marty McConnell, the Off-Grid Gecko here, and today I'm going to throw my hat in the ring for this whole 22 LR Stinger versus Velocitor debate. I've got some Velocitors over here. I don't have any Stingers because I don't use Stingers, and I'm not going to buy some just to do a video. We're going to do this one by the numbers. And what numbers, you might ask? Oh, this is going to be another guy talking about muzzle energy? No. I will discuss muzzle energy briefly, but for the most part, when it comes to a good hunting round, when I want the best hunting round for my quarry, if I'm going to try and take something bigger like a fox or a raccoon or just a larger pelt bearer animal, maybe even up to a coyote if I see one. I happen to have the 22 with me and I've got a really clean shot. I'm going to go with a Velociter every time. Okay. Now it depends on what I'm hunting that day, whether or not I carry these. So if I'm out hunting squirrels, I don't want to waste my good Velocitors. I just assume use target ammunition on them, or maybe some of my favorite Winchester hollow points, or even a CCI minimag. These, by comparison, are a little bit expensive, though not right now. And this is a little side note here, but I don't know if any of you guys have noticed all this bulk ammunition for 22 right now is like 18 to 25 cents a round. It's freaking ridiculous coming into the end of 2021. But you can still go to CCI's website today and get CCI minimags for 12 cents a round. You can get Velocitors, I think they're $8 for a pack of 50, which is still cheaper or on par with what people are selling bulk ammunition for right now. So ammo prices are a little screwy, but CCI, I want to give you a little shout out. Good on you for not jumping into the let's rape everybody's wallets campaign and keeping your ammo prices consistent by selling them direct from the factory instead of letting these second and third party dealers just jack up the prices and take advantage of people during a kind of an ammo shortage. I'm not going to get into that either. What I am going to talk about is why I choose the Velocitor. You can agree with me, you can disagree with me, it doesn't matter. I'm going to preface this whole thing by saying both of these rounds are perfectly suitable for a lot of the things that people want to use them for. For a long time, I thought Stingers was like a 20 or 25 grain bullet. I thought it was a little teeny tiny thing. They're 32 grains, so they do have some potency behind them. They're not quite the featherweight that I always assumed they were for a long time, till I actually took a closer look at them. But even still, side by side with the Velociter, I mean, you're carrying Stinger's like 80% of the weight of a Velociter bullet, and that makes a big difference, and I'm going to show you why here in a second. So what I've got is the gundata.org ballistic calculator, and I'm just using the standard pull down drop down menus to get my information for the Velociter and the Stinger. And this is going to be from a normal rifle, because it is a long rifle cartridge. I haven't adjusted the speeds, the velocity, or nothing. This is just going off the bullet specs for the test barrels that they're fired out of. But yeah, small game to even medium game, prairie dogs, foxes, and stuff. I believe both of them are good bullets. They're both high quality ammunition. The Stinger has a longer case, so it's not going to function as well in semi-automatic firearms that have a short throw. Your 1022 I don't think is going to care one way or the other, because the bolt comes all the way back longer than the entire length of the bullet. But on some small semi-automatic pistols, you might notice some problems with the Stinger, so just make sure you test it in your weapon before you decide to make that a primary for whatever you're using it for. Let's jump right into the numbers. So first of all, with kinetic energy and bullets, I'm not a believer. I'm not a fan of using that as a measurement of anything other than people that want to fire smaller, faster bullets and have something to talk about, saying, oh, they've got more energy. Okay, because I'm more of a momentum kind of guy. So if you take the muzzle energy times the velocity instead of squaring the velocity, you tend to get some better numbers that I think are more punch power type numbers. You debate that if you will. We're going to talk about both a little bit. So let's start with muzzle energy. This is calculating out of a rifle 183 foot-pounds for the Velociter, 191 foot-pounds for the Stinger. Okay, I'm going to do my own little calculation real quick. And this is not going to have units on it. This is just a base comparison. I'm not going to go through the whole measure of converting this over into the right units. The Velociter has about 10% more momentum coming out of the end of that rifle barrel. Alright, now momentum carries off into sectional density, penetration depths, ballistic performance. So right offhand, the Stinger is moving faster, which means it's going to travel in a flatter trajectory, right? It's going to move flatter. If your rifle is 0 to 100 yards, or close to 0 to 100 yards, the maximum point where that bullet hits the peak, the difference between the two is about 1/4 of an inch. So there's 1/4 of an inch less rise in the Stinger than there is in the Velociter. By the time you get out to 200 yards, and yes, I know, 200 yards with the 22 LR, that's a bit of a stretch. The Velociter actually drops 1/2 inch less for 100 yard zero than the Stinger. Even though it starts off slower, it comes out of the tail end a little flatter, and that's because the extra weight behind the bullet, it's maintaining its velocity better. So where does the velocity of the Velociter actually overcome the velocity of the Stinger? Let's look. 40, 1060. About 90 yards. So at about 90 yards, these Velocitors are actually going to be moving faster than the Stinger, because the Stinger is bleeding off energy a lot faster. Okay, now if you're just energy fan, you know, I don't want to leave you out of the loop. These will actually carry more energy. I mean, the comparison between them at the muzzle is ridiculously small. You know, 183 to 191, right? So I think anybody who wanted to look at an overview of it and say bullet for bullet, what matters and what doesn't, same. But if you want to really, really nitpick, the Velociter will overcome the Stinger in energy at looks like about 15 yards. So if you're 15 yards away from the gun, this is not only carrying more momentum, it's carrying more energy, more kinetic energy. It's still a little slower at that point, and it's going to remain slower out to 90 yards, but that gap is going to open up and open up and open up. So at 100 yards, Velociter here is carrying 104 foot-pounds of energy. The Stinger's carrying 81. So that at that point, this has 20% more energy than the Velociter. It's moving faster than the Velociter. It has a heavier bullet than the Velociter. I think that pretty much makes the case. Now, some people will talk about expansion. Okay, let's talk about that. The Stinger definitely expands easier than a Velociter does. Out of a handgun, either one of them, it's a toss-up as to whether they're going to expand and what kind of test you're putting them in, whether you're firing into water, ballistics gel, wet newspaper, pine boards, is all going to make a difference, right? But here's the thing about expansion. A lot of people that are talking about this are talking about energy dump, okay? Even if you're getting 120 foot-pounds out of your pistol, that's not a lot of energy to dump. All right, the amount of force that's put behind the bullet going that way is the same amount of force that the bullet's putting into your gun, your hand, your shoulder, coming back. And as everybody knows, 22 LR doesn't carry a lot of recoil. So force to energy and dumping energy, not really super important on a 22 LR. It will make a difference on small critters, granted. On big critters, maybe not so much. But yeah, if you want to make a squirrel's head explode, the Stinger might be the thing to use. But a Velociter will put them down all the same. It'll pin them. I can pin a squirrel with my pellet rifle. It's not really that big of a deal. To me. To you it may be. But these are the numbers. So if you compare the two trajectories side by side using just the data available out of a rifle, for all intent and purposes, they're the same. Okay? The energy dump, for all intents and purposes, is about the same. The only thing that's really different is the weight. They're both good cartridges, but I choose the Velociter because I'd rather have that extra weight. I'd rather have the extra penetration, the ability to bust up brush a little bit better, and to make sure that the bullet's going to do the job, that it's going to go in and maybe come out the other side. I'm not personally concerned with energy dump. If that's your thing, Stinger may be the better way to go, but if you're going to go with energy dump, just know Stingers don't necessarily expand all the time. They can be very, very unreliable expanders, the same as any hollow point bullet in any caliber, especially out of a handgun. It is hard at handgun velocities of any type to get controlled, repeatable expansion, and if you want that, you're going to have to pay extra for it, even with a 9mm or a 45 or a 40 or a 10mm or a 454. You're going to pay extra for that expansion, and that expansion is going to affect energy dump. But at the end of the day, you can get 12 inches penetration with these guys reliably at a much longer distance than you're going to get that with a Stinger. This is going to be less affected by wind because it's a heavier, longer bullet. It's just all around, to me, the Velociter is my hunting ammo of choice. Again, if you want to disagree, that's fine. But I see so many people just jumping on the Stinger bandwagon because it has a better reputation in the in the public relations sector. Like, there's a lot of people that'll back up the Stinger and they just think they're the best thing since sliced bread, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with a mini mag. These are CCI mini mags. I've got bunches of these just because I love them, because they shoot consistent and they go bang most of the time. I mean, I don't think in 15 years of shooting I've only had like 2 or 3 duds out of CCI mini mags, and I used to shoot them a lot. I've got my old Winchester hollow points here. This is a 36 grain bullet, and they don't come in this case. I just repurposed one of the CCI cases. Love hunting with these too. Any kind of 22 hollow point, that's my go-to round. On small critters, rabbits and stuff, got a NyQuil bottle full of little lead roundnose. They work too on the small critters, but for the big critters, when the shot is really, really important, I try to keep a mag of Velocitors loaded up for my 1022 at all times, just on the off chance that something big is going to come along. And by big, of course, I'm talking 22 LR big. I'm not talking like a moose, okay? But something like a small coyote, a large fox, a dangerous dog, even a small pig. I think Velocitors are definitely to be counted on, and prairie dogs and groundhogs all day long. So that's my thing. That's my point on it. I don't want to start up caliber war on it. I just wanted to kind of throw my hat in the ring and show a little love to Velocitors, because I've been using them for a long time. I really love these bullets. I think they're terrifically made. The manufacturing process, and it's just, they're amazing for a 22 ammo that you can still get today as cheap as you can get bulk ammo, because CCI hasn't gouged their prices. It's just a really terrific ammo. And it performs side by side with the Stinger. There's no real advantage one way or the other, especially out past 20 yards. All of these so-called advantages that the Stinger has over the Velocitor disappear at about 20 yards. So other than a slightly flatter trajectory, which isn't that much flatter, I mean, if you've got a gun that's sighted in for one, it's probably going to shoot the other about the same course. You're going to see the same kind of thing. It really doesn't make a difference, guys. It doesn't make a difference that much at all. So as soon as you get past 15 or 20 yards, the kinetic energy thing just evens itself out, and it's not that big of a difference to begin with. Controlled expansion out of a rifle, you shouldn't have any trouble out to 80 or 90 yards at all out of either one of them. After that, it's going to get a little iffy. Out of a pistol, it gets a little iffy, but generally speaking, out of a 22 long rifle like a 10-22 or a Savage or a Marlin, they're going to perform the way they were meant to perform. And I think they're both great choices. And I just happen to choose the Velociter because I like having that extra weight, that extra punch, and I do believe it does have a slight edge over the Stinger unless you're shooting something that's 10 yards or closer with a rifle. Out of a pistol, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I mean, different pistols like different things. You're going to get different velocity measurements. That's more for the gun nut guys to hash out. If you're using a 22 for self-defense, you're using it probably because you don't have anything else on you. So you're just going to go with what you got either way. So if you've got it loaded up with minimags or standard velocity ammunition, that's what you have. I think that about covers it. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to stop wasting your time, let you get back to watching more YouTube channels. But if you like this channel and you like this kind of calm, relaxed approach to talking about these kind of things, don't forget to subscribe. And I've got a whole bunch of other cool videos and stuff that I'm doing out here off-grid in the woods too. So stay tuned for that and check out some of my other vids if you get a chance. Tell your friends. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you next time. You have a wonderful afternoon.